The way this jacket is screaming for attention tells me that I need to go change, but I'm just not gonna do it because I'm lazy. Get it together, jacket. Oh, there we go. Hello everyone, it's Jayla, and it is also October, which means September has ended, which means it is time for a September wrap-up. I hope everyone had an amazing reading month, because I sure did. What I did not get in quantity, I made up for in quality, because I read some amazing books this month. Almost all of them were 4 or 5 stars, and the only one that wasn't, it still was good, but it was just like, could have been better. So, let's get into everything I read and break it down. The first book I read in September was Tinder is the Flesh by Augustina Bastarrica, and I read this for the Bratz Readathon. I read all of these for the Bratz. Did I read all of these for the Bratz Readathon? I almost thought I didn't complete the Bratz Readathon, and that would have been bad that I just realized it, but technically I did. So moving on. I read this for Bratz Readathon. It was for a book with an animal on the cover, I think. I can't remember. And you see these horns, you know what the deal is. So this book is about a newly transformed society in which people are now eating other people rather than animals, which they used to use as livestock and cattle. According to the government, animals now have a virus in them that is deadly to humans, so they can't consume their meat anymore. And so they take people and they start breeding them and processing them through factories and through slaughterhouses and things like that, and just label it special meat, along with a bunch of other euphemisms that they use in this book. And so this is just about this guy named Marcos who is working in this industry, and he's juggling with the morality of it all, but he's also got other stuff going on in his life, and so like he just knows that he needs to take care of his ill father because his job is the only thing putting food on the table at this point, essentially. So yeah, we follow him around, and it's pretty much all that it is. We're following Marcos as he is interacting within this world. I won't say much else just because like it's not really necessary to go into it. I think the premise on its own is really interesting, and that's what made me pick it up. However, my only issue with this book was that it simply just lost direction towards the end, and it felt like this person that we'd been following all this time just turned into a completely different person by the end, and I don't mean like in a really good character development way. I mean in this came out of the blue. I don't understand why we went down this path when nothing, it was like a sharp right, because nothing was leading up to that. So I just didn't like personally how the character development developed, because it just didn't do it well for me. But overall, I did really enjoy this book's premise. I enjoyed the social commentary that was within it. They talked a lot about capitalism, private agendas within the government not really serving the people, homelessness, racism, all these things that are probably only going to get worse if you start viewing people not as people, but as meat, because there are already people in the society, in our global society, who are seen as less than. And so when you start putting them into the livestock category, I'm sure you can imagine where things go there. I thought this book had so much potential, and it ended up only being a 3-star because it just really went in a weird direction at the end. I also made a reading vlog for this book, and so I left a review in there as well if you'd like to hear more thoughts and just, see me being cool. So there's that. The next book that I read in September was Legendborn by Tracy Deonn, which is now one of my favorite reads of the year. I loved this book, you guys. In the video where I hauled this, I talked about how, I was so excited because this is taking place in North Carolina, where I'm from, and the main character is a black girl, and it's all just very cool, like contemporary fantasy that I could place myself into. But little did I know that I could literally be her. She's from this small North Carolina town. The way she described her like physical features, I was like, oh, like obviously I don't look like her on the cover, but like the description of her in the book, I was like, I could be her. And just all these other things that I really connected with Bree, the main character, on, and that made this experience so much better for me because I could really place myself in her shoes, which was so exciting. Like, I'm making a whole video about representation because I need more of this in my life. I need to be able to relate like this. I found this book to be so fun, so action-packed. There was some sizzling romantic chemistry in it, just chef's kiss, so good. I also enjoyed learning about the history behind the different kinds of magic that were in this world, and just being in like my state, like knowing, understanding things. She ate Bojangles, you guys. She ate Bojangles in this book. I've never seen it. Why do I want to cry because of that? I have never seen a character eat Bojangles. If you don't know what Bojangles is, you're missing out on some fantastic chicken. So I'm so sorry, but it's a chicken chain it's like down the Atlantic coast. And so anyway, that's not the point, but I just really related. But I did have some issues with this book as well. It is not perfect. I only gave it 4 stars. I found that the descriptions of the world building were just really confusing and very info dumpy. It was really hard to keep up because you're learning about like Merlin and all the King Arthur and all those things. And like, yes, people who are like more familiar with those legends probably would get into it faster, but for me, I was like, you're throwing all these terms at me and I am not absorbing them. So yeah, despite like my connection to the character, I was super disconnected from the entire world building at first for maybe like a good 100 pages, and so that's not great. And it's kind of an important part of having a fantasy, is that you like explain the magic system well, and that definitely just lowered the experience a bit for me. There was also, like, this is a small thing, but I was really annoyed with how all these characters, they're basically like legendary warriors and like these super strength and they're so talented and da 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 da. But like, they were so easily bested in battles sometimes, and I was just like, how are you so good at your job but also so bad at your job? So I think my only real issue was just the explanation of the magic system and kind of throwing all these things in there that is really hard to keep track of sometimes. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. I loved the college setting. Oh, the best friend, we have to talk about her because I personally, she also kind of ruined the experience because she was annoying. Like, she was fine towards the end, but it's another one of those situations where it's like, you're really just gonna let your friend talk to you like that? Because I'm not. I loved the conversations about kind of Black people taking up very white spaces, which is a lot of what this is focused on. In here, she's joining the secret society of, you know, legendary warriors, people who have been within this fold for like centuries, because it's tracing all the way back to medieval times. And it's just like, she can't trace back her family lineage. She is descendant from enslaved people. Like, she doesn't know where she came from because of some of the people who are in this fold. Not like the people in it, but like their family, their ancestors. Their ancestors were the reason that she doesn't know who her family lineage is. And so I think that's just so interesting. I just love the conversation about that in here, about race, privilege. But yeah, as I said, one of my favorite reads of the year so far, and I cannot wait for the sequel. And I need to go ahead and get a real copy because I only have the ARC, and while she is floppy and beautiful, I need to have the real thing. The next thing that I read was Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert, and as everyone has already been saying, this book is very hyped, and it was really good. I really enjoyed it. It was cute, fluffy at times, kind of serious at times too. There is chronic illness rep in here that just taught me so much about living with chronic illness and how there's so much prejudice against it because just because you can't see it means that people just don't believe that it's real. And then there's a character in here who has been through a toxic relationship and decides that they need therapy, and so it was just like really cool to just like this full-on healing process and seeing how these characters are working through their past and how it just makes them so much better as a couple together. If you don't know, it's about a girl named Chloe Brown who is living with chronic illness and chronic pain, and so she's kind of just like taken the back seat in life. Is that an expression? And she's just like doing what she needs to do, going home, just not really living, she feels. And then she gets into a near-death experience and she decides she's going to make a list so that she can get a life. And she moves out, she meets this guy named Redford who like they hate each other, but you know where that leads, and it's just like really cute. And it was just such a fun little adventure and a very steamy adventure. And my only problem is one that I've seen plenty of people mention, which is that the last bit of the book, there's like a conflict and it just feels very rushed and kind of unnecessary. I think I understand the conflict in itself and I understand why it was there, but the handling of it was a little bit meh, and it could have been done a little better. I think that was my only big issue, and then my small issue was just that Chloe was super annoying in the beginning, and I was like, girl, why do you talk like that? But she grew on me, and both these characters are really lovely, and I can't wait to read the rest of the books that Talia Hibbert is putting out in this little Brown universe. Is that what it's called? I don't know. But there's one about the sister, there's one about her sister Dani, and then there's going to be another one about the other sister whose name I've forgotten. So I can't wait to read all about the Brown sisters. Then I read The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo, and just wow, you guys, just wow. This is about a girl named Ziamara who is living in, I don't know, she lives in the Bronx, I can't remember. She lives in New York. And at home, she's really dealing with a lot because her mom is just like a really, really spiritual like religious person, and she enforces these very heavy expectations on her daughter to just be this perfect girl. Meanwhile, her twin brother can do whatever he wants. He's not like doing anything crazy. He's a huge nerd and I love him, but he's just like, he doesn't have to live up to those same expectations. And Xiomara just feels very trapped because she can't really talk to anyone about how she's feeling. She's questioning her like religious identity. Maybe she doesn't even really believe in God. Maybe she doesn't believe in the church. She isn't getting the experiences that other teenagers are getting to have. She can't date, things like that, which is like not totally unusual in a POC household. So when this book takes off, it's about her just questioning everything that she's been taught about religion. She's curious about boys. She wants to experience her first kiss. She wants to know what love feels like. She's also a writer, and even though she can't dedicate as much time as she wants to her craft, because she has to go to church or she has to do stuff around the house, she can't just be out all day, whatever. She's just kind of trying to figure out how to make herself happy because she's trying to live up and be the perfect daughter, but she just can't. So this is just a really beautiful coming of age story, and I was like reading it with a lump in my throat the whole time. I was listening to the audiobook actually, which is just so amazing. Elizabeth Acevedo, obviously it's her work, so she's going to know how to read it, but wow, just she did a great job. And I was just felt like crying the entire time, and then at points I was crying, and it was just so moving. I actually was annotating. I stopped annotating at one point because I went to go walk my dog, and I couldn't walk my dog and annotate at the same time. And so I have to go in and fill in, but like this entire book is going to be filled with notes because just such a good story. And I even went in, I don't know if I can show you. I do not write in my books. I just simply don't. But what do you see there? I underlined things and I annotated, and there are so many wonderful lines in this book. And then the ones that are like annotated are usually the poems that I just really enjoyed as a whole. Highly recommend. I know that this is not a hot take. Everyone loves this book. I've never heard anyone here say anything bad about it unless they just like don't prefer verse novels, which is totally valid. I'm so glad that I have all of Elizabeth Acevedo's books because I don't have to wait to pick up the next one. I'm going to go ahead and pick up Clap When You Land probably very soon. Next, I read Felix Ever After by Case and Calendar, and I really adored this book as well. I feel like a lot of the time, I've talked about this book multiple times on my channel and just gotten synopsis all wrong because I don't know if I've ever actually read the synopsis. I just saw the cover and was like, I want this. But I did know that it was about a boy named Felix, and he's trans, and he's really struggling with this idea that maybe he's one too many or two too many intersections. He's black, he's queer, he's transgender, and he just feels like no one is possibly going to love me because I just check off too many boxes and that leaves me undesirable. And so he just really wants to experience love. And after someone pulls a really terrible prank, I don't even want to call it a prank, it wasn't a prank. I just don't know like a stunt, I don't know. I sound like an old timer. But someone does something really horrible to Felix, and he kind of wants to take revenge by catfishing who he thinks did it on Instagram. But then, you know, like as most stories go, they build a relationship and he kind of starts to fall for this person. And there is also just so much more woven into the story than just that plot line. But yeah, I really like this story. My only issue with it would be that Felix was super self-absorbed and very dismissive of other people's problems, especially his best friend. And I just did not appreciate that. Also, Ezra deserves his own story. I really want to read about him because I love him and I just want to protect him with my whole life. I gave this 4 stars just because I was just a little irked by Felix. He is definitely self-absorbed, and he's also not very aware of other people's feelings. And I know that sounds like he's self-absorbed, but I mean, like, even when he is doing something and he like realizes that it's wrong, it's also like, okay, that's just the end of it. Maybe that's not a Felix thing. Maybe that's just the writer's fault. So maybe that's Case and Calendar's fault and not Felix's. But I feel like there should really be more of Felix kind of apologizing, because it's always people apologizing to him. And he may apologize briefly, but it's never like a focus on what he did wrong. It's always like, I realized that was wrong and I'm sorry, and we're moving past it. So yeah, it's a pretty small thing, but it just kept popping up throughout the story. And I was like, Felix, I know you're not perfect, and yet you're always acting like you're perfect. Also, all the people in this book are just bad. Everyone says horrible things. I'm obviously not a trans person and don't experience daily life as a trans person, so I don't know what kind of comments are being made towards them. But I was genuinely surprised by how people that he called acquaintances were just so transphobic. And he actually surrounded himself with queer friends. So the fact that so many of them were just doing such horrible things or saying such horrible things and not even really like checking themselves for how terrible they are was just astounding. And I think that sends a strong message in itself. Like, you can be a part of the community and you can still be bigoted. You still think that not everyone is deserving of the same rights as you, which just is bizarre to me, but also kind of happens in every community. So I really, really enjoyed the conversations that were had in this book. I enjoyed Ezra. Like, he was kind of the selling point of this book for me. But the romance as well, I just really loved Felix feeling loved. I loved seeing that. And that is what caused me to reread Heartstopper by Alice Oseman again, even though I only read it in like, what did I read this in May? But I reread it because I was feeling really like in a mushy gushy mood and I just wanted like, oh, like I want love. I want to experience love. And I just remembered how happy I was while reading Heartstopper. Low-key hot take, but it is not as good the second time around. It's not bad. It's not worse. It's just like it did not hit me in the feels like I wanted it to. But it was still cute, and I talked about this and gave it a full review in some video that I'll link up here in case you want to go watch it. But it did give me a lot of what I needed, and then when I didn't feel that, I just turned to Hunger Games fanfiction, which is literally all I read for the rest of September. I just read fanfictions that I loved. I wish I could wrap up all of those for you, but something tells me that you don't want to hear about that. So these are all the books that I read in September. Let me know what your thoughts were about any of the books in this pile if you have read them. I really enjoyed everything I read this month. I thought they were all so wonderful and unique, and they just made me feel so many things, and I hope I have another successful reading month, although I don't know if I'll be feeling the exactly same way because I will be reading hopefully a lot of spooky reads if I have the time. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you're having a great day. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and follow me on Instagram at LalaLovesLit to see my Bookstagram page, or friend me on Goodreads. Do both. Do both of those things. And I will talk to you soon in another video. Goodbye.